It's time. The videos that nobody... damn. It's time. The video that no one's been waiting for. My Shadowhunters wrap up. Okay, everybody. Hello and welcome back to my booktube channel. Today, I am doing a video that's been 3 months in the making. Actually, I really had no idea that I was going to be filming this kind of video in 3 months. I really thought it would take me a lot longer to read the entirety of this series. I read the entirety of the Shadowhunters Chronicles in less than 3 months. Yes, less than 3 months. And I'm here to talk to you about it. I do believe this video is going up exactly 3 months after I started reading City of Bones. Oh, damn it. No, don't talk about it. I picked this book up on a whim from Half Price Books, and I was like, I've heard of this book, like classic YA urban fantasy. I'm excited to start it. And then I hated this book. I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. Like, the world was really cool, and I generally liked the characters, like, maybe. Things happened in this book. Things happened. That I was not okay with. So I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I did read the rest of the series, obviously. You wouldn't be watching this video if I hadn't read the rest of the series. That's what started it all. 3 months ago, I literally was sitting in this chair, and I was like, I should start a book. So I picked up that book. I've fallen down the rabbit hole. I've fallen so far down the rabbit hole. Like, there's no way I'm getting out of the rabbit hole now. So yeah, I'm here to talk to you about all things Shadowhunters. This video is gonna have spoilers in it. I really don't know how I could do a video like this without spoilers. Like, it's not gonna be awful, but if you haven't read like the main 4 series from her, you probably won't want to watch this video. So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about like huge plot points or anything like that, but I do just want to give my general thoughts, and I feel like I can best do that if I talk about things that happen in the books. So I'm so sorry if you have not read this. If you're here now, I hope you have read the entirety of the Shadowhunters Chronicles, and I hope you are as obsessed with it as I am. Obviously, I'm like 15 years too late to the trend, but I'm like 15 years late to every trend, so it's no surprise that I'm just now getting into this series that was first published in like 2007. So we're just gonna get into the video. I've rambled enough. Yeah, let's go. So I was a little bit stuck on the structure of this video. I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to talk about it because I thought just going through all of the series chronologically and talking about like everything about them might be really long and boring. So I've decided to do something I'm going to call Shadowhunter Superlatives, which is kind of stupid. Maybe, but I feel like it's the best way that I can talk about why I like all these series. So I'm not too heavily going to go into the issues with these books because there's a lot of issues with these books, like I can clearly see that. But this video is kind of just going to be why I like the Shadowhunters Chronicles and just general things that I think each series does best. So I have like 4 categories since there are 4 main series out. But first of all, I feel like the first thing I should talk about in this video is my favorite series overall. And drumroll please. Yeah, we don't need a drum roll. We already know it's the Infernal Devices. When I tell you I've not been able to think about anything but this series for the last 2 months, I'm not even exaggerating. I think about this series every damn day of my life, and I wish I didn't, but I do. Like, it's never leaving me. This is my new favorite series of all time. I don't even have words to describe how much I love this series. The setting is just amazing. I love the Victorian London atmosphere. There's just so many landmarks that they mention, so I feel like it's very easy to envision this London that they're walking around in. I just think that really enhances the story experience. I know New York and LA are really easy to envision as well, especially considering they take place in present day, but I just feel like the Institute in London is much more cozy than the Institute in LA or New York, personally for me. Now, I do have some critiques, which I will talk about really quickly. That is the villain of this series. Mortmain just really wasn't doing it for me. I just feel like he's so one-dimensional. Like, the Clockwork Army is scary, like, don't get me wrong. Like, some of the descriptions had me like, ooh, I don't like that. And I didn't realize they were so big until I looked at like the artwork that's on the spine for the Infernal Devices, if you can see that. But like, they're huge. I was not envisioning them this big. Like, I read that they were 20 feet, but like that didn't really like register in my mind. I was like, that's a big bitch. Oh my god. I just didn't personally find it very fun to read about an army where, you know, It's very overpowered. They're nearly indestructible. I just felt like the shadowhunters never stood a chance. Unless Bridget was getting out there. Like, she got shit done. But like the rest of them, I just felt bad for them. Take the Forsaken, for example. Like, such a good army. Like, they were scary, but you could still kill them because they're normal people. But like with the Clockwork Army, I was just like frustrated because I was like, this is just stupid. Like, they have like no hope. Really wasn't feeling like the villainous motive from Mortmain. Like, yes, very sad his parents like were maybe killed by Shadowhunters. I still don't remember, to be honest. But I just feel like this is an overreaction. Honestly, like, I thought the Dark Sisters were more scary than Mortmain was, and they got like -3 minutes of page time. So those are like my general thoughts on the Infernal Devices. I know it has a lot of issues with like the antagonist in the army, but I can overlook all of those because the romance and just the relationships was just everything to me. Oh my god. Which is why the first like actual superlative that I'm going to give out in my favorite character relationships slash like general main romance was the Infernal Devices. Like, I know the main couples like Jem and Tessa and Will and Tessa, but also like Henry and Charlotte. I loved reading about them and seeing how their romance developed over the series. I loved reading about Sophie and Gideon getting together. Like, I just think the thing with the scones, I think about it all the time. Gabriel and Cecily low-key seemed a little bit forced to me. Like, I don't know, I didn't see a lot of like development in that area, but maybe I just need to reread Clockwork Princess or something because I like them together when they're older. Like, reading about them in the last hours, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But like, it just felt too perfect for them to like be paired off together, you know? But other than that, the relationships are so good. Just the fact that Cassandra Clare made a love triangle that is universally loved when like every single person on booktube hates love triangles is amazing to me. I just feel like no one can actually choose who they really wanted Tessa to end up with. Like, I know she gets both of them, but like, I feel like if you have a preference, you're heartless. So moving on to my favorite plot, I'm actually going to give this to, where are you? You're up there. The Dark Artifices. I really love this series, especially for the plot. I feel like it had one of the strongest plots. I thought it was just really interesting. Honestly, the part in Queen of Air and Darkness where they went to Thule was one of my favorite plot points of any Shadowhunters book. Like, I know a lot of people don't like alternative universe storylines, but I was a really big fan. Just seeing how things could have turned out had Sebastian won the Mortal War, I just thought was fascinating. Like, I loved it so much. And just the fact that the spell that Magnus put on Julian wore off while they were in the alternate universe was just everything. And then they went through the pain of like going back to the normal world and it being back. Wow. Just like oh wow. Just wow. This series was like also super connected to all of her other series. That's probably just a product of it being her like latest series in the timeline, but I still really enjoyed literally picking up things from every single other series. All of the events of like these first 3 series led up to the things that are happening in the Dark Artifices, and that's just very interesting. I loved having read all of the other series so I could pick up on those things, and it was just super fun to read that. It's also really interesting in Queen of Air and Darkness to see how Cassandra Clare explores the topic of grief with that death really was too much. I knew it was happening, but it still got me. But I did really love the ending of this. I don't know, actually, I don't know if I would say I loved it. I really liked it. I thought it was weird as hell. Very interesting to see the you can't fall in love with your parabatai thing finally rear its ugly head. Gotta say, I was not expecting that. I also felt like this series could dive more into the plot because there wasn't a newbie learning like the Shadowhunter ropes, you know? Like in the Mortal Instruments, Clary's new, so a bunch of things need to be explained to her, so that takes up page time, and the same thing kind of happens with Tessa and the Infernal Devices. But going into this book is kind of expected that you know things about the Shadow World, so it can really focus on the plot as opposed to explaining like trivial bits of Shadowhunter history. Okay, so moving on to my favorite antagonist, I'm gonna have to give this one to the Mortal Instruments. Now, I was not the biggest fan of the Mortal Instruments. Like, I'm not saying I didn't like it, but it's just clearly not one of my favorites. I think it's probably my least favorite. But I do have to give it to the series. The antagonist was, I personally think, the most interesting in all of her series. It also makes sense because this is a 6-book series, so they got a lot of character work. Like, I know the first half kind of focused on Valentine and the second half kind of focused on Sebastian, but just the fact that it's a father and son dynamic, I just feel like you get so much more insight into what he was thinking, why he was doing this, like that kind of thing. I really loved the like army that was at use in this series because the Forsaken, it just like plays on some of the deepest fears of humans, of you know, your loved ones turning against you. And the way that that factored into Julian having to kill his father because he turned Forsaken was just, I was like, whoa, that's, oh my god. And like, it's so clear to see why Julian is the way he is. So it's really interesting to see how that can like impact later series. I think more so Sebastian than Valentine. Like, Valentine was okay. Man was kind of just a racist bigot, but Sebastian, I think, was just psychotic. But like, the scariest part was like, he did have some human moments. Like when he was going around in the traveling apartment with Jason Clary, you could see that he really cared for them. Like, I know it was a little weird with like Clary because there was like that incesty thing, so we won't talk about that. But like, just the fact that he was capable of like feeling like a deep connection to someone but still just going off the rails and killing everybody in his path is honestly more terrifying than any other villains that I've encountered in this series. Now, as for my favorite cast of characters, it's obviously going to go to the last main series left, and that is The Last Hours. I know there's only 2 books out in the series, but I feel like I can adequately judge that these are my favorite characters that I've encountered. You know, I feel like I don't need 3 books for that. Just this cast of characters is fantastic. The LGBTQ plus rep in this series is so amazing. I just feel like it's so much more diverse than any of her other series. It pulls in beloved characters from the Infernal Devices that everybody loves and you love to read more about them. I just feel like there's so much more insight provided for each character because there's like short stories and they're mentioned in like later series, and I just feel like we know these characters really well. So we're introduced to Anna in Every Exquisite Thing. It talks about her relationship with Ariadne and what happened and why their relationship is so tumultuous in The Last Hours, and I just really loved that backstory. And then James Herondale also has a bunch of backstory provided in Cast Long Shadows, in Midnight Air, and he's also in one of the books from Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, which shows how him and Matthew became parabatai, which I loved just reading more about these characters than you get in the actual series. Readers can really take more time to observe these characters and see how they interact with each other, because the beginning of The Last Hours is very chill. There's no demons in London, so I feel like we can really just see them being normal teenagers and living a semi-normal life while still enjoying the luxuries of coming from a wealthy family. I mean, like, it's not that normal. I mean, James bought a whole house at 17 in like one of the richest areas of London, but we won't. That's not the point. It's just more interesting to see them doing mundane activities, like going on picnics. I mean, granted, the picnic that they went to got attacked by demons, but like, that, again, not the point. So that's kind of my favorite thing about all 4 of the series. Now I want to talk about like the side series, kind of, mainly like the short story collections. I don't have a lot to talk about with them because, again, it's like really hard to talk about short story collections, but I do have some thoughts. So my favorite, I just have this sitting here so I will show you. It's The Ghost of the Shadow Market is my favorite short story collection. I think that's just because I love Jem Carstairs, and I think I would love anything that is written about him. I just love that we got to follow Jem through the decades, and I also feel like we got more insight into the Silent brothers, who have remained, you know, generally mysterious throughout like her normal series. I also thought it was fascinating to see him trying to like maintain a grip on what his life used to be like while struggling with the fact that his emotions were like muted in a way, and oh, it was just so sad. Honestly, getting to see him and Tessa just interact after he was cured by the heavenly fire was everything I needed in my life. Like, it was so satisfying. Yes, just yes. The Bane Chronicles, I think, was my least favorite one, but it did have some of my favorite stories. I loved the ones about him and Alec towards the end. I also really loved the Midnight Air, which follows James Herondale, and I think that was our first introduction to James Herondale, and it goes into his ability to like turn into a shadow. There's also one about the backstory between Raphael and Magnus, and Raphael Santiago is one of my favorite characters, so you know I wanted to see some more about him. Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, I think, was the first short story collection I read, and I wasn't sure about her short story collections at the time, but I really ended up loving it. I think my favorites from that one are The Whitechapel Fiend, because it follows how the Shadowhunters were covering up demon activity by spreading the story of Jack the Ripper. Pale Kings and Princes follows Mark Blackthorne and Helen Blackthorne, who I love both of them so much. I've also read the first 2 books in the Eldest Curses series, obviously because I've read every single book in the Shadowhunters realm, shall we say. Overall, I did really enjoy it. I gave the first one 4 stars and the second one 3 stars. The first book was fun. I liked going on a little European vacation with them, and I also liked the second one because I thought it was interesting to see the Shanghai Institute. I feel like you don't really get to see a lot of the other institutes in depth throughout the series. feel like it's just like the main three. Honestly, kind of a lackluster plot, but like I really don't think anyone reading this spin-off series is here for the plot. Like I'm sure everyone is just there to follow the characters and see Alec and Magnus and how their relationship is developing. I think I will end off this video with some of my personal favorite characters. I don't even think I have to explain. I think it goes without saying that Jem is one of my favorite characters. I think he's my favorite from all of them, all of the entire series. Mark Blackthorne, he was an unexpected favorite of mine. Him learning things about like the mortal realm and seeing him interact with like all this technology that he's like does not know about, it's just so entertaining to me. He's just like a comic relief, but he also, I feel, goes through a decently complex story arc throughout the entirety of the series. Isabel Lightwood is also one of my absolute favorites. She was literally like one of the only people I liked in the Mortal Instruments when I first started reading it. Just every time I would read about Isabel, I was like, yes, I need, yes. Just yes. I also just love James Herondale. Like so many people call him boring and I just don't get it. I feel like he's a complex and like mysterious character and I would love to know more about him. So I'm so excited for Chain of Thorns, which unfortunately is like 1.5 years away, but it's fine. No, it's probably, I think it's like a year. Still a long time, and I'm sad. So yeah, that's my Shadowhunters video. I feel like this video may be a little disjointed just because I love this series, like this entire world, so much. I don't know how to adequately articulate my feelings about it because it was my favorite part of my summer. I loved reading all of these. I feel like I binged a lot of these, and while I kind of wish I hadn't because I wish I had savored it more, I still love the experience. Like I read the Mortal Instruments in a week and it was such a fun week. I know this wasn't one of my favorite series, but I still love thinking about the experience of attempting to read all 6 of these rather medium-sized books in a week. If you haven't read the Shadowhunters series and you're for some reason watching this video, I really hope you do read it. It's really good. I also loved reading all of her series like really close together and like somewhat in chronological order because it was so easy to see like the improvement of her writing and her character skills. Like the Mortal Instruments is, I feel like it's fine. Like it's not great, but like it's fine. But just reading Chain of Iron, like I think one of her latest books, it was like a world of difference and it was just awesome to see that kind of improvement in a writer. Like it was just so fascinating. I think I'm gonna call that good. I've been talking for like 40 minutes about this series and that's long enough. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'm assuming you've read the entirety of the Shadowhunters Chronicles, so let me know down below who is your favorite character, what's your favorite series. I just need to talk. I just need to talk. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!